Hello, I'm Bruce Renowden from Renowden Buyers Advocates in Melbourne. Thanks for joining me. Today I'm going to review the service that Buyers Advocates provide for clients, for buyer clients, and that is the search service. Now the search service involves, it's the start to finish process where a buyer engages a Buyers Advocate to come along and join them and assist in the looking for a property, and then when a property is found that the buyer would like to purchase, then doing the closing part, the bidding at auction or the negotiating. Now I can only speak for the way Renowden Buyers Advocates performs this service because I'm not privy to how other Buyers Advocates conduct this role, and depending on the volume of clients you've got and the personality of the individuals at each advocacy will determine how they approach a client. So I will speak specifically about how I see the role and how where my priorities are and how I conduct the process. I've found it, I've been in the industry for doing the buyers advocacy since 1996, so it's quite a long time now, and I've assisted a lot of buyers in the search process, and that's buyers who have first home buyers, naturally enough, often enough, and buyers that have had a fair amount of experience as well. So there's a fair range, a fair gamut of purchaser types, low price properties, higher price properties, needless to say, and I conduct the process much the same no matter who or what sort of property and what sort of individual I'm dealing with, because I have found that the process that I have followed for a number of years now, a long time in fact, is one that I find very satisfactory and almost invariably works, without exception. And the important part here is that the advocate listens to what the buyer is hoping to achieve, and from my part, the name of the game is to find or get as close to successfully finding the type of property the buyer wants in the price bracket they can afford and in the area that they have a preference for buying in. So there are three ingredients. There's the type of property, the price bracket, and preferred location. Now I start off with the client examining the possibility of realistically achieving that objective, because some buyers have got an area covered dollars wise and the type of property they're looking for is achievable. Others aren't quite, they're a bit out of alignment with the reality of the situation, and those people need a little bit more help to establish what their money will buy them in what areas. And my role is to assist the buyer to, if they can't get their first preference in type of property, style of property and so forth, I then discuss with them, this is part of the process, what their second preferences would be, whether the compromise is location or type of property, or maybe it's a case of moving the budget up a little bit higher to accommodate the expectation. But in any event, I am constantly getting buyers through the front doors of properties so that they are learning all the way through their search process. It's important to go through properties you don't like as much as it is to go through properties you think you will like from the internet, because it's a learning process, and it's very important for me that the buyer client goes through properties and physically inspects them, even if they perhaps think that, oh well, this isn't going to suit me, but it adds to a body of knowledge. It's very, very useful, I find, and the clients always find this. They feel by the end of a relatively short space of time that they have gained a lot of insight into the market where they're looking, and that's because I've directed them to go through particular properties which improve their understanding, their knowledge of a marketplace at a particular time. And on average, my search services from start to finish have, in a great majority of cases, a 4 to 8 week completion time. So invariably, most of my clients have bought something in 4 to 8 weeks, but that's with a lot of work. That's with the buyers inspecting a lot of properties. I organise the open for inspections and the inspection arrangements for them, and I'm constantly tweaking and discussing with them what we're seeing, what their reactions are, and whether we need to modify slightly how we adjust our brief. This is all important. It's very hands-on. The search service is very hands-on. I only personally look after a very small number of clients at any one time, so I can allocate a lot of time to each client, and they get the benefit of that allocation of a lot of time. And so the process is all about being close to the buyer, the client, understanding what their preferences are, ultimately getting as close to that, fulfilling that objective as possible, but all the time tweaking as needs be if there needs to be some sort of modification of thinking in expectation. Maybe not, maybe the expectation is totally fine and we've just got to find the right place. But it's always about improving knowledge and education as to the market and the experience of going through properties. So by the time we actually find a property they really like, the buyer is very well prepared because they've seen through a lot of other properties and they have a good basis with which to compare the liked property. And then we go through the process of working out how we will buy it and minimise our opportunities of missing it, which can happen because of other buyer activity or the way the agent conducts the sale. But all these types of things, they're very important. A lot of them are subtle, but they all come from a lot of experience in the industry, dealing with buyers, dealing with agents, knowing how buyers respond, how they behave. I anticipate all of this with my client. I discuss it all. I'm open with them all. I explain things, and buyers are always feeling very informed and as though we're making progress, even if it appears daunting from the start. Now, buyers advocate search services vary in cost. There's a wide disparity of what agents, advocates will charge for a successful search service. It's the expensive service because obviously it can take a lot of time. It can take several months to complete a service, sometimes even a purchase, sometimes even longer. So you must be prepared for a fee that could be, 10, 20,000, depending on the purchase price, of course. Well, they do tend to be based on purchase price, which is reasonable. But in any event, the name of the game, whatever the purchase price, I and any other advocate would be aiming to buy the property as cheaply as they can. To pay an extra 10 or 20,000 for a house means very little to the fee. So don't be worried the fact that it's based on a sale price. And a good advocate will always try and buy as cheaply as they can. They're not interested in a few dollars more for the fee. They're interested in saving you some dough. So just be clear on that. Some cynical people have different attitudes to that. It's just not warranted. In any event, so my positioning fee-wise is middle of the road. There are some cheaper than me. There are some that are a lot dearer than me, I know that. But you have to look into what service you get, how much hands-on service you actually get, how much experience you're being offered, and really I think look at the success rate that the advocate has with their clients, because I have a feeling that some advocates' services are a little bit too at arm's length and maybe not as intimate and connected with the client as they should be in order to get the client across the line. I have to say that that's not the way I perform. I like every client to be successful if it's at all possible, and a small number of clients ensures that I have plenty of time for each individual, each couple, whatever the case may be, but each client, and ultimately it invariably ends up with a successful outcome, which is the way it should be. So look, advocates can clearly bring a lot of advantage to a service, to a buyer, by their familiarity with how the industry works, their contacts with agents. I speak to agents a lot when I'm in a search service for a client. I keep in regular contact with the main agents in the area where we're looking, and that helps enormously. The agents know I know what I'm talking about, I know what I'm talking about, and things get done and you get a lot of information, or I get a lot of information which I pass on to my client, therefore, who benefits enormously from that information via me, who's executing on their behalf. And so it all assists with the outcome. So invariably you'll end up with quite likely a better property and hopefully bought at a better price, but also importantly a property that you are successful at getting and not missing out because another buyer ended up getting it ahead of you. So there's a lot of value in using someone trained and experienced in this industry to help you find a property, and in relation to the costs that you're going to pay for stamp duty and a number of other costs along the way, it's a very small percentage that you pay for this service, which can be very valuable at the end of the day. All right, well, thanks for joining me. Give us a like if you enjoyed this video, and please obviously be in touch with me or Renowden Buyers Advocates if we can assist you in this line of pursuit for you. I'd love to hear from you and discuss what ideas you've got. Details will be below the video, of course. And thanks for joining us today. All the best. Cheerio.